Hi, it's Jeff Cohen from the Florida Healthcare Law Firm. I'm having fun today. I'm here with one of my best friends, a guy I've known for a long time, love, and I love what he does. The Healthcare Disruptors Series profiles some of the most amazing thought leaders, creative thinkers in the healthcare space, and I can't think of anybody better than Dr. Stephen Hacker to talk to today. So here we are, Healthcare Disruptor Series, Dr. Steve Hacker. I don't know how you do this. I've watched you for years make amazing buildings, and you don't like hire somebody to do it and then hope it works out okay. You imagine the most wildly creative, cool stuff, every detail, from a London clock to a vacuum transparent elevator to cantilever office buildings when nobody was doing that, so that the space is wide open, to every kind of business I've never freaking even heard of. I remember when you were doing the jet thing. Yeah. I'm like, dude, what are you doing? Oh, I'm doing this jet business. So between all of the buildings that you make, which are breathtakingly beautiful and creative and amazing and great to be in, to businesses that I only hear about because I see you at every coffee shop between 5 and 6 in the morning with you with your laptop creating yet another business. What the hell is going on? Where does this come from, man?
I think it's a personality flaw. I'm sure it is. But I would say that if I think it would be better, I want to try to execute and any idea, try to see it through. And that's the battle is, you come up with an idea for a really cool building and 3 years later you got one, but you've got to be willing to fight for what you kind of believe, what you think it should be like, because like a business, building a building is no different than building a business, and every day is a different battle and a different hurdle, whether it's running a dermatology practice or building a new startup or building a building. It's just you just have to have that perseverance gene. And
where do you think that came from? Could you have any stories about?
My dad was a businessman. He was an entrepreneur. I watched him do it time and time again, and sort of grew up in that. He was as a young guy. We're from Michigan, in Detroit. He started as a kind of restaurateur, entrepreneur. Even in his 20s, he had a bunch of small restaurants that you have to have that mindset, and then he moved that into different businesses, and eventually, he was an inventor too, and he invented different things, and he was a tinkerer, like I tend to tinker, and so I think I watched him and tried to learn the best of those experiences, because when I was growing up, it was up and down, and that's what being an entrepreneur is. It literally is up and down, as most of your audience will tell you, and anyone who's ever started a business knows that.
So up and down, I think, means success and failure. Is that what that means?
Well, I guess it can. It can mean success and failure, and it can mean within the context of that individual business.
Mm-hmm.
One day you're up, one day you're down. It's a lot of that, so you need to be used to it. Think of running your law firm. One day things are great, the next day they're not, and that's how it is with every business, and it gets amplified. You're building a building. One day it's going right, and then the city shuts you down, or the architect shuts you down, or the GC fights with you, or the quality of the material is not right, and you need to send it back, and the GC doesn't want to. So you have to have that strength to fight for what you want, And the same thing is in business. It's, one day it's going great, and then you're selling, and then the next day you have to figure out why you're not selling, or those types of things.
Where do you think that strength and that perseverance comes from? And has it been tested a lot?
Definitely. I mean, so I'm thinking back as you asked that question. I mean, I've had a dermatology practice employing physicians for 30 years. And while doing that, I've had probably 4 or 5 different businesses, some really good, some average, that type of thing. And it's been tested all along the way. So I think, where it comes from, probably my parents, I would have to say, and my grandfather. My grandfather also, as I think about it, my grandfather was an entrepreneur. He owned his own bar, ran that for 50 years in downtown Detroit. So I grew up watching that. And like my dad, as I mentioned, the restaurant business, even in Coral Gables, when we were there as kids, I can remember working in the restaurant, but watching my dad, work the restaurant.
Were you close to either your dad or your grandpa with business challenges, difficulties as well? Did you see that up close and personal?
My dad had some years I was too young to recognize it.
Yeah.
So when I was, say, 8 to 10, I think he got wiped out, say, in the restaurant business in Michigan. That's what caused us to move from Michigan to Florida. And so I hear about that as a kid. I never felt that.
Right.
But he landed back on his feet, built couple successful companies and sold those. So I didn't ever say, oh, gee, it's tough. I can remember hearing that it was tough during those years. I mean, we lived in a very, very modest place when he moved us to Florida. I think it was a difficult time. I remember hearing how he borrowed money from my grandfather, that type of thing.
Yeah.
But, he fought through it and it all worked out.
What about challenges that you confronted early? Challenging moments in business that you confronted? Did they give you pause? Did you ever think about, God, maybe I made a mistake. Maybe I want to quit. Did it ever have that impact on you?
I think definitely. I mean, if I went through every one, so in 1995, I started a company called skinstore.com, which was, at that time, was the first skincare company on the internet. I mean, if it wasn't the first, it was second. I have no idea who was it. And it became the largest skincare internet site. By the time it sold to Walgreens. Walgreens bought it, and now occasionally I'll pay attention to it. Walgreens doesn't own it. They sold it to somebody in like London or something. But that was my founder's shares were bought by Walgreens. So in terms of challenges, I can remember, I mean, that was a challenging time for me starting that new company, and my kids were young. The practice was young. And so I was kind of balancing those things. I would say that was the biggest challenge with that. If I had to reflect back on what mistakes I made with that, it's probably not practical, but the biggest mistake I felt was, at that time, I hired a CEO to run the company. He might watch this one day, but I felt like when I did that, because I was still running the practice, I made the decision to still run the practice and say, look, I can't do both. So I hired a CEO. I think some of the decisions that you empower to other people that may turn out to be the wrong decision or the right decision. I think that I had some frustrations there, like with the way it was being run.
Right. So you were loggerheads at times with the CEO.
Yeah, and then I remember when we sold, we did a merger with another company. I mean, I think it might have been impractical to think I could do everything.
Right.
So I think, you put that we had issues.
How did that affect you going forward?
I think it made me think about the next time I'm doing something
Right.
that I have to remain in control.
Got it. The experience that you had with the CEO in that skin store. Aside from it convincing you that you have to take more control, operational control going forward in businesses, did it impact your view of life or people, or did it have a broader impact?
That's a great question. So I loved doing it.
Yeah.
That's the impact of that. I loved watching it grow. I loved going to a trade show and seeing that I had 50 employees and salespeople, and we had a huge, display booth. I might have been 30 something, that was young. And it was exciting. I remember, there was a lot of buzz around it, and it was really happening. And so that's where the bug bit me. So if it was the broader view, it was being a part of that. And then I loved negotiating strategic deals, partnerships, acquisition. I loved all that stuff. And I realized I liked it. I love being a doctor. I still love being a doctor. I've been doing that so long that I've been able to carve down my days and my commitments as a doctor now, where I wasn't when I was first starting.
Yeah.
But I love my patients. I still love that. I still really enjoy my patients are like family now. Imagine seeing the same client for 30 years, seeing the kids and the grandkids even, so that is also something really good. But I would say I'm more obsessed with business. I think just at this point in my life, with building business, with building something new, building a unique commercial building, selling it like we did the other building, having a success, knowing that somebody liked it, because it was, as you knew, it was pretty radical. The first building where we cantilevered it over, and I maximized the space that we could do, and really built an apartment in there, and you saw that.
Oh, yeah.
There's not a build. That's a very unique thing. So that's a business.
So these are like all really unique things. I think one of the things that's most impressive to me that really catches my attention, and I see it more in the buildings than the businesses, because the visual impact of the buildings that you do is so immediate and so visceral. I'm not able to create anything visually. It's not my thing. It's not my skill set. It's not. But when I go into any of the spaces that you've created, I'm just kind of knocked on my butt because of what you've created. It's so innovative, it's so different, and it's so appealing. So how did you get to be so visually creative like that?
Thanks for saying that. I've definitely always been that way, as a kid. So I was like that creative kid, and doing things sort of, I don't know if I would say out of the box, because building a building isn't out of the box, but thinking where something would be really innovative.
Ooh.
And as you're talking, I was thinking, because I went from even Skin Store, which was here's something interesting on a business aspect away from the. So the reason Skin Store worked initially, and the reason I started it, was essentially we were in the diverting business. I don't know how much you know about the diverting. So the diverting business, sort of a controversial business. It's like if you have a grocery store and you're stocking it with items that you didn't get directly from the manufacturer, but you got from another grocery store in another country because it was cheaper than buying directly from the manufacturer. So you diverted it and you sold it at retail. So that there's a big industry, the $1 billion industry, diverting. Well, Skin Store was essentially that, because back in 1995, no one bought skincare products online, and the skincare products we put online, you had to go to the doctor's office to get them. They weren't prescription. They were called cosmeceuticals, nutraceuticals. All that whole industry was just starting. You had to go to a doctor's office to get those skincare products. So the companies that manufactured the skincare products only wanted to sell through the doctor's office. So they probably made the the skincare product for $2. They sold to the doctor for $20. The doctor sold to the end user for $40. Okay. So this is interesting. Diversion is interesting, but this is how the business came along. So I took those products and put it on the internet, but I couldn't get them from the manufacturer because they didn't want me selling on the internet at the time. No one sold on the internet because now the patient doesn't have to go to the doctor's office. He can buy on the internet. As before, I wasn't aware if Amazon was selling skincare creams back then. They were selling. This is 1995. It wasn't a lot. I mean, they got into that later. They became much bigger. But the point was, we were creating a different way to get those creams. So that was that business, and that's why that business grew, because you can now get skincare cream that you would have to make a visit to the doctor's office. So that was the appeal there. After that company, in healthcare, I started, which didn't work for a variety of reasons, a robotic telehealth company, a robotic telepathology. So we had, back then, if you did, a surgeon cuts out cancer. So he has a pathology. There are two ways to do it. You can do it at the Mohs surgeon, where you read the path on site, or you would do it in the traditional way where pathologists read it for you. Let me know if this is getting too off tangent.
No.
So
you send the specimen out, or you look at it for yourself.
Correct. So the problem is you're a plastic surgeon or a surgeon or even a dermatologist that doesn't do Mohs surgery wants to know that its margins are clear.
So there's no more cancer?
There's no more cancer, right? I mean, if you're not a Mohs surgeon, you still want to get frozen. Back then, you wanted to cut and get frozen sections that were clear. If you're a plastic surgeon, you're cutting out cancer, you have to send the patient to the hospital or send the path to the hospital. So I created it was called Mobile Path Services, and these vans that were outfitted with satellite dishes, satellite dishes, and lab processing unit on each van. And it became busy. We had, I don't know, probably 5 or 6 different vans all over the state. Then we got these large trucks, and one of my partners in that, who was really one of the investor partners, really wanted to do what was called rapid tissue processing. So we had these really sophisticated trucks to go all over. But it was an interesting business as a way, because you could now scale. So imagine a pathologist not having to go to each doctor's office. Right. He could sit in his. This is 20 years ago. A pathologist could sit in his
way before
like what teleradiologists do, basically.
Yeah.
They can read from the house. Now he can read from 6 different vans at 6 different locations, having to go nowhere. So that was the principle. I think that there were some mistakes made along the way. Again, I think perhaps just some, I don't know, management issues or just things. But I pulled away from the business. That I felt like. It was not gonna work. There's a variety of reasons, I won't go into it, but I learned a lot from that. Okay, but more what I wanted to tell you is just letting you know how I'm trying to think what would be disruptor healthcare. That was disruption of healthcare.
Yeah, because nobody was doing on-site path.
On-site path
or telehealth monitoring.
Telehealth and frozen, and it all coordinated. The frozen section was the hook, and that's how you could get it. So. Anyways, and people in the business doing it, and I think it would have been successful, actually, if a lot more effort was put into it.
So what are you looking for? I mean, when you're in creative mode and you don't have a project, what are the signs and signals that you look for that get your attention and get you into a project?
So Steve Hacker 25 years ago is way different from Steve Hacker today. So Steve Hacker today wants to do a project, but everything needs to be simple. So boiled down to needing as few people as possible and having a business that'll work with as few people, management, whatever. Just as it's a bit. That's the business I'm looking for that kind of business that doesn't require as many moving parts.
Does that connect back to that experience?
I think it connects back to
CEO and
yeah. I think just in general, I feel like the younger Steve Hacker was maybe more grandiose. I don't know. Or, maybe I thought I could do everything or something. And I realize that now, if you're probably like me, I mean, there's an end now. So you really have to be careful what you pick in terms of I don't know how many good years I have left. So the businesses I want to do that get me juiced up have either an end point or they're simple.
Yeah.
Or I think they're simple.
Yeah.
Nothing is true in that. But the point is like the latest company is, in my mind, is a simple business. The one that I started just a few years ago. Lumos. And I mean, it's basically an improvement in a device. You either want it or you don't want it. It's not software. It's not licensing. It's not all the complicated things that go into running a .com. There's not a lot of regulatory issues. There's some basic regulatory issues, but as I was saying, so the idea is to sort of, for lack of a better word, to dumb down the idea so that it's, at least from my point, being almost 60, I'm 59, being almost 60, I want to sort of pick something that you, the customer, you either want it or you don't want it. I don't have to change it. I built it, and now we'll see who likes it. And that's kind of where I am mentally. And those are simpler businesses.
So I got to ask, what's the point now of business? What was it 25 years ago? What was your why of being in business then? And what is it now?
I think it's another really good question. What motivated me then, motivated me now? I don't like to have the thought of missed an opportunity to develop something I thought would have worked and watch someone else do it. I think that's what it is.
Yeah.
So with skincare, like I knew that was where it was going, and I didn't want to sit by and watch some other guy do that. With telehealth, telepathology back 20 years ago, I didn't want to watch someone else put these, and they're doing that now.
What do you? I mean, a lot of people that are smart people have this thought at some point. They'll notice an opportunity or a wave, or they'll see something, but they don't do it.
Yeah.
What do you think the top two obstacles are in the minds of people that are also smart, also creative, but they don't do anything with it, or they don't do that much with it?
It goes to this point, and if you do these things, people come up to you all the time. Hey, I got a great idea. I got a great idea.
Right.
And you realize that it's cliche. It's like your idea is 1% innovation or something, 1%. Inspiration and 99% perspiration.
Right.
So without question, that's true. The idea is nothing, and it's all execution and working it. And so it really has nothing to do. And you could think of the stupidest idea. It doesn't matter. It's all the guy who's willing to work hard.
And so it's the got a great idea, but I'm not willing to do what it takes and make the sacrifices that I'd have.
Correct. You have to love it, because to me, I'm not sacrificing anything. I'm risking capital.
See, that's important, because when you talk about stuff that you're looking for, the fact that you have to love it resonates with me, because that's an immediate return. I love what I'm doing. I love the project. I love the mission.
Love it.
So even if you're in early stage along the way and you're not there, and you may never get there, you had a great day because you love the mission, you love the project.
You have to love this, or it's so hard that you have to love it. I could. My wife knows, my kids know. I mean, I could go to a coffee shop to work, and 10 hours could go by, and I won't even know. You see me sometimes in the morning.
Oh,
I mean, I look at 3 hours because I love doing this. I'm talking to 20 different people, and the internet makes it a lot easier to talk anywhere in the world to anyone. You have to love that.
So what else? One of the big things that people talk about when they think about business or they talk about business is the money. Whether it's the money necessary to fund a business or the money that I'm going to get when the business is operational. Where does money factor into your thought process when you're evaluating something and when you're pursuing something?
So there's a couple money issues. So first, definitely anyone that I know, I can speak for myself. You don't do this for the money, you do it for the victory. It might be measured in dollars, but I'm not thinking, oh, I need to have $100 million. I'm not going to, $1 billion. I'm not thinking about that because honestly, it's the way I live. It's not going to change my life, but I don't do it for the end game. But I do it for that, for the journey. It is the journey. It's not the destination. And so if you're thinking purely about the money, sure, you probably can do things, and there's probably better ways. So the easiest thing, just buy a bunch of franchises. They work. You could be that guy. Buy 1,000 Subways, and I guarantee you'll make $100 million to $200 million. That's the advice. You want to invent and try to create something different, like lift that rock up the mountain, get like Sisyphus and get it knocked down and keep doing that over and over again. That's the entrepreneur. And you have to be willing to, you have to be willing to do it because you have to get pleasure out of certain things, the minor victories. For instance, with the handle, the idea to me that people buy this handle that didn't exist before and people are using this handle. And then we get orders for the handle and we get distributors for the handle, and handles, it's becoming known. To me, that's really rewarding. Yeah, at the end of the day, if it's super successful, there'll be a cash liquidity event. But I'm not thinking about that. I'm totally not thinking about that. There's too many problems before you get to that point that you have to solve. And so I will think about that, but it won't be until I'm not even close.
I'm so glad that you're saying what you're saying, because that's an elusive thing for many people that are either new to business or even just upset about business after business. Because I hear it often from people. The point is the outcome, the financial outcome. I mean, even if you scale back and you say, I'm a physician or I'm a lawyer or I'm an accountant, that idea of, hey, what's my financial outcome today? And that's going to drive whether or not I had a good day. And that's going to be the measure of whether I was successful that day. You hear it. I hear it. I've had those thoughts. I've had that way of living and being oriented. And a lot of people do live that way. And I think that the notion that fulfillment and the mission and the innovation is the gold every day as you push and you move and you handle these details, that's an important message.
It is. And so I think as you're talking, I'm thinking, I can think of when I go to the kids, my kids or my wife, and I go, look, putting into concrete term, that building didn't exist. We designed that building. It's here. It's going to be here for 100 years, that building. It's not going down, that one. This one's not going down. And someone's going to drive by there 25 years from now, 30 years when I'm long gone, and say, just like I do when I see something cool, that guy built that. I like that. That gets me juice.
That's super cool. It is very, very helpful, and it's good to have conversation with somebody who looks at things that way, because I have a similar experience in life, that if you're focused on the end journey, if you're focused on the destination, you miss having a great day. But if the day is about the joy of connecting with a project and a mission and people that matter to you, that you really value, it's a great day. So you never fail in that sense. That's guaranteed. If you know how to have a great day with your business, or with your mission, your project, you've had a great day. Did it get where it was going? I'm not really sure. I'm never really sure, because the stuff that I've done or been involved in, some of it has a remarkable outcome and some of it has a really disappointing outcome. But if I did, my thing is like, I want to do great shit with great people. That's my thing. In other words, I want to be happy, I want to have fun, and I want it to mean something. And that's what I'm hearing from you. This engagement, the innovation, the journey, the applying the simplicity and all the lessons that you picked up along the way and pushing that ball, that's incredibly, it lights you up. I mean, it's fun to see you in a coffee or in the gym on your laptop all the time. I never know what you're working on. Well, I know lately because of Lumos, but it's just, you're just so engaged, and it puts that look on your face, which is elusive with people, because we get overwhelmed by challenges and frustrations and shit, and that's normal and human and all that stuff. But you are just consistently creating the game and in the game.
Yeah, I agree.
I love that. I love it. Talk to me a little bit about the notion of disruption, because for example, the buildings that you build, they're not like any building I've ever seen, which tells me that innovation, disruption, is kind of wired into how you think about things, and I suppose about business as well.
Definitely, I would say, yeah, I agree. So I'm trying to think. So Skin Store was different at the time. It was not an existing business. There wasn't anything like that. The telepathology company. After that, I created one of the first cloud-based consumer healthcare record company that I sold to an insurance company, which was acquired by Verisk Analytics, which was a public company. So that Passport MD is what I started. That was 2005. So maybe that was my third business separate from the practice. So you had Skin Store, you had Mobile Path Services, Passport MD. So 2 of 3 of those sold. Passport MD was select. So I started that, again, totally engaged, obsessed with this business. There has to be a better way. Travel with your health records. You don't need to be. You have consumers. It was just an interesting business. Medicare selected us as their pilot program. That's really what helped. They selected software that I had designed with an engineer, but I designed that to make it as stupid simple as possible. And it was cloud-based. Again, I think that was, I want to say 2005, which was already 15, how many years ago?
20 years ago.
About 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And I think I sold it 2008, maybe, something like that. And then what did I do after that? I wrote a couple books, and then I took it easy. Then I thought of then we did the buildings, and then Lumos. I've been really working on Lumos I've been inventing for 4 to 5 years. The business is new, but the inventions and the patents and all of that just mechanical, probably been 4 to 5 years. So there's 20 plus patents surrounding different devices.
Let me tell you what I loved about this. When you told me about it, it was a paperclip. The simplicity of it really got my attention, and the improvement of the experience for the surgeon really got my attention. Simplicity and improvement. So I remember back in the day, before like Post-it notes, I would write notes on pieces of paper and get a piece of tape and tape it around. And then I saw Post-it note, and I loved it because it was super simple and it solved a problem that I encountered every day, right? When I saw your Lumos, I said, it's the same thing. It solves a problem of illuminating a surgical field or wherever the clinician is working with a scalpel or something, and it lights it up in a way that's really cost effective and simple, and it makes the experience of the user so much better than before. So I love the simplicity, and I love the problem that gets solved with it. I understood it, even though I'm not a surgeon. I'm like, who wouldn't want more light? You're removing something, or you're enhancing something. You're an esthetician. Why would you not want more light? So I love that, and it really resonated with me, like a paperclip, like a Post-it note, and that's why I had to contact you and invest and understand and share the journey to the extent that I do with you. I love this thing. I think it's super cool, and I love what it does.
Yeah. So these are two different handles. So we have, so we started with one product, what's called a Lumos MD handle, which is a number 3 handle, which did 3 different blades. I'm getting technical, but basically there's an MD handle for any doctor.
Right.
And then we have a separate handle for estheticians that do a really, really, really popular service called dermaplaning. And this handle makes sense for that. So we have Lumos MD, we have Lumos Dermaplane, and we just cut an exclusive deal with a superstar pathology distributor company called Mopac they have the exclusive distribution in the pathology field for labs, histotechs, people that would use light integrated into a handle for lab work. So we have Lumos Lab, which is 2 other sizes of the handle. So those are reusable handles. And what is innovative, and I mean, this is not genius work, but basically, the scalpel handle's it's just assumed to have one purpose, the scalpel handle, and that is to hold the blade. That's the function of the scalpel handle. There's not any functionality built into that handle. So by putting circuitry and integrated electronics into the handle, we can do a lot of different things. You can do Bluetooth, you can do video, you can do photography, you can do illumination. All of these things we've contemplated and we're launching. So the simplest is this handle. This is called a reusable handle, and it provides light for a surgeon or for an esthetician or for the lab, as we mentioned. And this gets reused. This goes into an autoclave. So what was innovative about that is being able to put circuitry into the autoclave and have a slightly different form factor that can go into the autoclave. And then we have a single-use Lumos handle. This is single-use. This is a really huge opportunity. This is where I think the Lumos opportunity is. And this is military, government, anyone who uses a handle outside of an environment that may not have lighting. And so this is a single-use handle that has light integrated into it. So that's Lumos single use. And then we have other accessories that go with these that enable illumination with retractors and various other instruments that we've contemplated and have developed. And I think we'll have, so we started with one maybe 8-10 months ago, and I would guess that by August we'll have 6 or 7 different devices that we'll be selling. And we sell them every day now, so it's really exciting.
That's so cool.
It's cool.
Yeah,
it's cool. So we'll see where that goes. And I'm this is all that I kind of think of right now, is trying to figure out a way to do it. And we're partnering with the best distributors in the world, global distributors. On the aesthetic side, we partner with the largest company called Universal Companies. On the medical side, Henry Schein. On the pathology side, Mopec. And then we have great distributors in respective fields. In dermatology, we have Delasco and Tiemann. And in plastic surgery, we have a company called Black & Black, who's a leader. And in podiatry, we have a distributor called Gill Podiatry. They've been around forever. They're great. My next move is hopefully get into veterinary, because I believe that this would provide use for large and small animals in veterinary.
Wow. I didn't even hear about that. That's great. Huh. It's amazing how that platform, you're coming up with so many different applications. I remember when you were talking about how pathologists might use it, and it never occurred to me because they're always in the path lab, and you assume it's illuminated, and, so they're set, right? But I guess not.
No, the areas, so path labs are poorly illuminated. Lab space in doctor's office are poorly illuminated. Certain morgues, for they use them for autopsies. Anatomy class. I mean, there's so many areas, and then don't even think about U.S. Think on a global scale.
Right.
People just don't have it's very, very expensive to have surgical quality lighting. Doctor's office, if they put surgical quality lighting in 6 or 8 exam rooms, they're spending probably $20,000 a room. It could cost them $100,000 or more.
And even then, they're impeding the light flow.
Correct.
Because I've seen those in surgery centers, especially.
Right.
They have huge light kits, but I love this thing. I think it's great. I've got to dial back on something, because there's 2 things that I hear entrepreneurs complain about the most when they're starting something or growing something, creating something. One is money. We've talked about that. The other is people, support. Having people to rely on to handle part of the operation, whether it's at any stage, whether it's at the inception of a business or ongoing operationally. Have you found that to be challenging?
So definitely finding the right people is 90% of the challenge, and the right people can make a company succeed or fail. So 100%, that's correct. I know that I've got a great engineer. I went through 5 or 6 engineers. I've got a great regulatory guy. I went through 3 or 4 regulatory guys. You just keep going, and this isn't right. This isn't, you feel where you're getting not what you want. You have to just, to the degree that you just keep pushing until you get the right person. I've got a great office manager and a great executive assistant, and I've got a great team here that takes care of things for me. So, I have a team of just great people that care about me and care about the business, and really want to see whatever I do succeed. So, and I'm comfortable with that. But it takes, if you start a business today, if you're somebody looking at this and you start a business today, it'll be 2 years before you get the right team.
Yeah.
And it'll cost you a lot of money for those 2 years.
And that's going.
Right. It's just, you have to find the person that fits. You have to find the person you trust. There's so much goes into it, and it just takes time. This is filling this talk with cliches, but it is so not a sprint, unless you're super, super lucky. This is a marathon. Everything we do is a marathon. You can't rush building a building. You can't rush this kind of stuff. And half the time, things you didn't think of when you started it come to you as you're fighting through all these other issues.
One of the things that impresses me about you is how you're able to have your hand in everything that matters to you. And I've seen you cut back on the number of days that you're in your office to accommodate business projects that you have happening. But you don't let go entirely. You're still engaged to the degree that it's really fulfilling as practicing as a dermatologist, while at the same time giving life to a new company. It's amazing to me. I understand the idea of inspiration and really being so mission directed and being fulfilled by that on a daily basis. A lot of people would say, I don't have the energy for that. So talk to me about that. Where do you get the energy for it?
I mean, there's probably people would say, and they would not be incorrect, that I'm losing out on other things. It's choices. You're sacrificing, I could be skiing or I could be camping, the things that I like to do at different times. I don't like them as much as I like doing this. And so if you like what you're doing, you're not missing out on anything. What somebody might look as an outsider say, and somebody who likes that stuff won't necessarily have time to do this because a business is so consuming, that's why you have to love it. So that brings us back to that point. But I don't know, did that answer your question? Just,
yeah.
You find the time because I always feel like I don't have enough time.
One of the biggest moments for me in business was realizing that there are certain things that I do that energize me, that fulfill me, and there's certain things that I'm doing that actually drain me.
That's a great way to put it.
And I realized, I don't know how many years ago it was. It was less than 10 years ago, that I needed to turn away from the things that were draining me because the weight of them was encroaching on the things that I enjoyed. And it was actually it was hurting me energetically. I wasn't having a great day because I was doing stuff that really drained me. So there was like about a 3-year process of shedding myself of the things that drain me and focusing entirely as much as possible on the things that I really enjoy. And that changed everything for me. Everything. The energy that I get from the day. Like a lot of people come home and it's like, oh, I'm so beat up, I'm so drained. I don't feel that way because I've been able to create a life, a business life, where I'm invested in the stuff that really invigorates me. And I hire or delegate or outsource the stuff that I really don't enjoy. So
well,
that's what's happened.
For me, I mean, that. How many times have we had talks? I mean, just what you've done and with your business and your law firm and with the way you live your life has inspired me to delegate more. I would say that, and to take more time off and to, anyways, that's been very helpful.
Good. That's great. So where do you see yourself in the next year, 5 years, 10 years? Do you think like that? Do you plan like that? Do you envision your life in that way?
I've started thinking like that. I never did think like that. But as I get older, I definitely am, through all what we've talked about, I definitely get tired, whereas I didn't get tired before. So I know that there's a finite lifespan to my energy. And I can see it's not the same as it was before. In my mind, I'm 59. I have 5 or 6 good years left of where I'm super productive. And then I don't think I'll start another. I think this is probably the last business I start. I think it's got a couple more years of nurturing before it gets to where it needs to be. And so that'll take me to my mid-60s and 63, 65, sort of dabbling in some real estate and taking advantage of things that I can take advantage of. Personal, spending more time with my wife and kids, maybe that.
Thanks so much for joining us for another episode of Healthcare Disruptors. This is just too fun. Look forward to seeing you next time.